couldn't say it the way she did. The R in the middle was soft. It was near to a D, close to a T, without being either. Andy could have listened to the sound for hours, her name, and the way it spun off her tongue. After she said it, she took him by the hand and he followed her into the woods. They crushed locust shells together. Crisp carcasses hugged the oaks or hid beneath giant leaves. They hit them with rocks and beat them down with sticks. Andy lined the shells up along his palms, and Meadow brought her own down on top of his. Andy loved the noise the shells made as their hands clapped against each other. Bits of the locust stuck to their skin and clung to the hairs on their arms. They examined the fragmented pieces of legs on their forefingers, the disjointed eye hollows on the tips of their thumbs. He was awed that the locusts could leave a piece of themselves behind like that, fascinated that the body could abandon the shell. They were tiny, accidental sculptures, skeletal relics of living things that still moved. Above them, their counterparts cried out from up high. Maybe some of them dropped from the clouds, Andy said, and Meadow raised her face to the sky. They found themselves searching, trying to prove the existence of the insects. They looked for the live ones flying in the air, alighting on top of the branches, but the locusts were too quick for them. The only thing they found that day was husks. Andy didn't know much of death. Grandfather hadn't gone yet, and it was still long before the cancer would claim Mama, years before Daddy would die in his sleep. Back then, it was simpler. The cows in the freezer box, the shedding of the locust skin. They were the nearest things he knew of death. Meadow jumped around him, collecting the shells. She held them in her hands, balling her fists together so she wouldn't lose any, crushing empty skulls and body parts in the meantime. A blaze of sadness washed over him. He thought of what they were taking, and wondered if it was theirs to take. Meadow stopped moving and stared at him. She took a piece of shell away from the others and brought it up to her mouth. She said, "Wonder what this tastes like," and then she gently placed the remains of the creature on her tongue. He had not expected it, and the sudden surprise behind the action caused his eyes to squint shut, then flutter. His pupils beat against the underside of his lids like small wings, making a sharp flapping sound in his head. He could see the constellations of red stars, outlines of trees, small squirrels and birds that just a moment before had been backlit by the setting sun. He heard the crunch of the shell in the darkness. Imagined the jackknife legs flattening between her molars, mixing with her saliva and dissolving. He could sense her hands reaching out toward him before they actually touched his skin, before her fingers forced the flap of his eyelids open and held them there as she stood less than an inch away from him. Their noses almost touched. Her jaw was still rotating and the crunching sound was still audible when she pushed her lips onto his. His tongue went still for a moment, then flailed. It moved aimlessly without him. It fell along the insides of her mouth for pieces of the locust discarded skin. When he was grown, Andy would remember Madden as the first, but realized she had only been the beginning, that it was the crazy, damaged ones he would love. He didn't know this then, but he could sense the life whirled in a helix around her. Its movement was feral, and he was wild for it, even then. Mrs. Dawson was the one that found them that day, two small children in the woods, their little bodies pressed together on the bed of leaves, the ruins of a locust on their tongues. The big black car arrived for Madden at the end of the week. Andy tried to stop the frizzy-haired woman from taking her back again, but Mama made him come inside. He watched her leave the same way he watched her come, through the net of the curtains. As an old man, he dreamed of it, how she walked and the way the pale twilight ran in circles over the stone of her face. He had forgotten the way the light had moved until that moment when he held the pen in his shaking, arthritic hands and wrote it down neatly, in careful letters, at the top of a fresh page. He gripped the pen tightly, the same as he always had, just the way Mama had taught him, forefinger and thumb connected, the second finger underneath and not on top.